You're listening to episode 78 of Game Deflators Podcast. It's probably week 4 or 5 of social distancing, but here's Ryan.
Hey, everybody. Here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we're pretty sure everybody already knows about Doki Doki Panic in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge.
That's right, folks. We were playing Mario 2, and yes, we do know that this is pretty much Doki Doki Panic.
Super Mario Bros. 2?
I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to offend. It is 2020. I should
this
have a
is
new
some
vision
people's favorite Mario game, John. Don't
I-
disappoint them.
You know what? They're disappointing me by having this as their favorite Mario game. So, wow, that's going to stir up some crap right there, dude.
If you want to fight with John online, you could do that at the Game Deflators on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, but it's just Game Deflators. They against the over at Twitter.
Let's have a tweet war about how Mario 2 is the best. Super Mario 2. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Super Mario Bros. 2. Gosh, John, show respect.
Is it? Do you consider Peach a bro though? Because she's in the game too, and you can play her.
She's a total bro. She's always hanging out with the dudes.
Yeah, and always getting captured by Bowser. Except this time it's a really
and then hanging out with his dudes.
I don't want to know what they're doing. All right, man. So let's go ahead and get started. Pickups, as always. I'll go ahead and start because I had a lot of pickups this week, randomly enough. So, and all brand new stuff, mind you. So I got Sayonara Wild Hearts on the Nintendo Switch. Impulse buy. I am 8-bit. Actually, you know what? I think it was Game Grinder again, dude. Like, he just posted some images and some pickups, and I went on Best Buy and noticed, oh, look, 8-bit games are on here. Let me go ahead and just pick up another copy of something that I don't need. So I got Sayonara. Oh, go on.
This is interesting because Sayonara Wild Hearts, and I've seen other games and we've never really talked about it, but back in our earliest big episode that had the most downloads, thanks to anybody who remembers the Vectrix arcade system versus the Apple arcade episode we did a while back, Sayonara Wild Hearts was not one of the games we covered in that, but it was one of the launch titles for Apple Arcade, and it was a big draw, but it has since been ported to other things. So I don't know that I remember ever saying that things would be exclusive to that, or maybe just for a limited time, but it seems like, that's pretty much the case.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool game, man. Like, I've seen some trailers on it, really liked what I saw, and I don't have any rhythm games on the Switch, so figured why not? And it's something you can just kind of pick up and play, right? So that was really the main reason for that purchase.
You could have bought Boys, which was from another early episode of our podcast. Shout out if you remember that one.
That was actually our first podcast episode, and I think it is called Lost Episode 1. So, yeah, definitely check that one out. And, of course, it's time to plug in, right? So catch our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere podcasts are found, Podcast Addict being one of the key ones as well. And check us out on there. Leave 5-star reviews, 6 if you can, and we would really appreciate a listen. So, next thing I picked up, dude, Streets of Rage 4 Collector's Edition on Limited Run Games for PS4.
I just saw Jim Sterling cover this game this week.
Yes. So it's got mixed reviews from what I've heard. There's some people are like, wow, this is amazing. I've been waiting so long for this. And other people saying, well, it was kind of underwhelming. You know what? At the end of the day, this collector's edition that I bought literally sold out in 5 minutes and I got 2 of them. So I'm excited about it. And it's limited to 1,000 apparently. And it has a 7-inch statue that comes with it. I thought that was a pretty cool no-brainer. So I picked those up. And this one was interesting too. So Game Grinder again, one's at it, making me buy stuff when I don't need to. So he recently posted a picture of a couple games or 3 games that he had purchased through Best Buy's recent sale. And I was like, oh yeah, it's been a while since I checked out Best Buy. So actually, if you're listening and you don't know this and you're in the US, I don't know if Best Buy is overseas. Basically, every Sunday, Best Buy has a list. So if you just type in like Best Buy video games deals on Google, it'll come up with like a 24-page setup that pretty much shows every single game they have on sale for the week. It's harder to find it through the actual sites, easier to find it through here, but there's always great deals on there. So one of them was Death Stranding Collector's Edition for $99. Now it was sold out. But John here knows that when things are sold out on Best Buy and there's a price point on it, Amazon is typically right on it, price matching. So I picked it up for $99, brand new, Death Stranding Collector's Edition on PS4. So I thought that was a great pickup, considering I've been wanting to play Death Stranding for a while, and now I have a briefcase with a baby in it. So it's going to
We
be pretty
still
cool.
have not finished Death Stranding.
Oh, really? Do you guys like Amazon Prime Stranding or no?
What?
Amazon Prime Stranding, you're delivering packages.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a pretty cool game. But I mean, Bree was mostly playing it. I was mostly watching and then doing the parts she thought were too scary.
Yeah.
But I didn't find it super compelling. Like, I would not have probably ever finished that game on my own.
Yeah, it seems like one that you really have to kind of be into that style of gameplay and that type of story. So it really is right up my alley, and I had been waiting for it for quite a while. So I think we had like several episodes where he talked about rumors on it, as a matter of fact. So I'm pretty stoked about it. Once it gets in, it'll be a while till I crack it open. It was mainly on the fact that, hey, I'd seen this collector's edition for a while. I kind of wanted to pick it up back when it was like 200, and it's like, it's a little too much. $99, come on. Like,
I think it's going to be one of those games that's going to have a resurgence down the road. Like, I think it's going to go down as like a cult game, and like people are going to love it more and more over time.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at something like The Last of Us, right? When it first came out, it didn't catch on right away. And they have like this crazy collector's edition that now goes for a boatload of money. And I'm not saying that's the reason I bought this, right? The reason I bought this is because I wanted to play it. And
well, that's the first thing you said was you wanted to play it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, but I mentioned boatload of money. People assume that, oh, he's trying to hold out. No, I mean, I'm going to crack this baby open and literally have a baby on display.
Nobody's hiding the fact that John wheels and deals. That's what this show's all about. This is a look at a collector. And also, we give you anybody who's new to the podcast, the Inflation Deflation Challenge is when we pick a game that John has, and we play it for a little bit, and we decide if we think that it's worth the price that it's going for.
Dude, have you seen the retro prices as of late?
No, I don't really follow them like you do, John.
Oh my god, dude.
I check out one a week, maybe 2 or 3.
Dude, like Xenogears, okay? That's just one to give you an idea on.
Oh, just I know that's like $80 the last time I looked at it.
I just sold one for 90 to somebody. Like,
yeah.
What? It's ridiculous, man. Like Mario games right now are like Mario 64s going for like $65. It was just like 25 last year. Like, dude, this coronavirus thing has people going crazy on game prices.
It's nuts. I mean, people are locked in and, they've got nothing but time to play games. So people might be just getting into collecting, might not realize that those aren't, whatever price you buy it for is what you're saying it's worth to you. But if you go online and check out, like we get most of our information from price charting, all of the prices on there, they have a whole compendium, and we'll get into it later when we get into that. Let's keep going, John.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep going. But yeah, your pickups now. I've got too many games sitting on my floor. It's your time to talk about your pickup, and I know you got one this week.
Okay, so last week I said that I was probably just going to cancel GameFly. And then I noticed that Final Fantasy VII Remake moved its ship date up from the 30th to the 28th. And I was like, oh, that's like 2 days from now. It shipped out on the 28th, got it on Friday, and we've sat down to play it a couple times since then. We haven't really gotten very far because we've been very tired and going to bed early because we've been working a lot and waking up early and stuff. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's pretty awesome so far.
So you actually are enjoying it?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I've watched tons of videos on this, like a bunch of different people's reactions, and I've definitely gotten all the spoiler stuff dumped on me because there was just, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later in one of our articles too, but I just took all of me. I just took all of it in stride, and Playing the game is super fun. They make it feel so alive. Like there's this one part where you open the door from your apartment, you look out on the city, and it looks like a photograph of a real place. Like it looks so real. I mean, as soon as you step outside, it kind of like, okay, that's not really what it looks like. But just that first kind of shot, it's kind of like reminded me of the first time coming out of the vault if you weren't wearing the sunglasses and you have to like shield your eyes from the light for a moment. Like it was kind of that same kind of moment. And I was just like, whoa. And the game is just
Hashtag Fallout.
absolutely gorgeous. And the combat is super fun.
Well, I mean, I played the demo with you, and I did enjoy that. But I've kind of voiced my opinion on the remake. I really don't want to play this thing until it's all out, and if that's 10 years from now, so be it.
Well, and the rumor now is that they're going to try to make the sequels in smaller chunks so that they can be released more frequently, which I don't know, like it almost seems like a better deal to me to get like a 20-hour game every other year for the next 3 years and they're only $30 than waiting 4 years in between games and paying 60.
Well, yeah, I agree with you on that, and I think that'd be an awesome
And
option
plus
if it was.
more discs makes for ultimately a bigger, cooler collector's edition.
For sure. And that's why at this point, I am going to wait 100%, just wait until this thing is fully done. Like, I mean, look, I waited for Kingdom Hearts and I still haven't beat it yet. I waited for Final Fantasy 15 and I beat that, last year?
Yeah.
Or the year before. So yeah, I could totally wait for Final Fantasy 7 Remake to fully flesh out and come out in its full entirety or in its entirety
Yeah,
versus,
you're sitting
yeah.
on thousands of games already.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not hurting for a new video game right now, and there's so many RPGs. Like we'll get into our currently playing in a minute, but there's so many RPGs that I own. I don't need to play Final Fantasy 7 Remake anytime soon, and it'll
Yeah.
be on PS5, so I can wait for it to be on PS5 and upgraded in graphics and everything else.
Right.
So, safe to say that's what you're playing. But what else are you playing before we jump into mine?
So I beat Symphony of the Night. That was a fun little diversion. It really made me feel like my investment, my $20 investment and my $40 in aftermarket add-ons to my PlayStation Classic was totally worth every penny. We talked last week about how it totally puts them to shame, and for $100 they should have come out with the coolest thing anybody'd ever seen. So that's kind of in the past for me. I did try to tinker with a little bit more emulation stuff this week. I tried to see about getting it on my iPad because I was like, the iPad is like a beautiful large screen, like getting something running on there. But I guess it's been a long time since I was jailbreaking stuff. Like I used to jailbreak my iPhone 1 and 3 to emulate like Final Fantasy 7 and just push it as hard as I could. Like I was into it back in the day, but it's been a long time. And apparently now it's very difficult to get them up and running and keep them running because of the way Apple monitors all the apps. So they'll like pull licenses from stuff, and there's services that you're supposed to be able to pay for that make it more accessible, but I guess they're not really worth it because it doesn't really help. So I was like, I'm going to avoid that altogether because all I want to do is play Paper Mario without having to pull my Wii out. Like I have it on my Wii and I have Thousand Year Door, and those are like some of the few Nintendo games for console that I actually own still because I used to trade everything in. So I just want to play Paper Mario. So I got it up and running on my phone in like less time than it took to do all of the research to find out that it wasn't worth my time to try to do it on the iPad. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, that was kind of like but it's okay. Like I just pull it out for a diversion every once in a while because it's easier to have your phone out than like the Vita or the Switch. So I could just do a little bit of that and play it over time. I love Paper Mario. I just had like this nostalgic hankering to play through it again. I've been playing Animal Crossing. I've really come super far on my island. My island looks awesome. Uh, I started terraforming stuff. Like I had this little park set up, and I was gonna put just like a couple of all the different fruit trees in that park and some flowers, and it was like a cute little park. But I was like, oh my god, I have such a better idea. Once I got like all the terraforming stuff, I made a miniature model of my island and the hills and the rivers and the waterfalls and stuff in the park. And then I put one of the tree in each of the areas where I planted like a little grove of that type of tree. Like I don't have like any little models to represent the buildings, but I know those have been in older Animal Crossings. So I'm hoping eventually I'll get like a little museum that I can put down where the museum is and stuff like that. So I put like an hour, maybe an hour and a half into Animal Crossing every day, and every few days I still might put like 3 hours in. Like if I get an idea, I have lots of areas that I can still develop, and I can still do a whole bunch of stuff to really make my island pop. So I'm going to take it long term, and I think that's great. They just had the May Day event this week, which was so fun. You get a ticket, you get to go to this island, and it's a maze puzzle. Like you don't have anything on you. You can pick up certain items like sticks and rocks and stuff on the ground, and I think it starts you off with one shovel and one axe, and then you have to kind of puzzle your way through the island, use the crafting materials to make like it drops DIY cards for making shovel and axe, and there's fruit around, and you have to solve this puzzle by like, okay, I need to eat this fruit to break this rock, and then I can just chop this tree, sit on the stump, turn around, get over. Like it was a really, really fun thing to do. I got it on my first try, and I felt super good about that. But the unfortunate thing is there's only one ticket. It's a 7-day event from May 1st to May 7th, and you can only do it once. Like, that seems dumb. Like, I would like to even do the same puzzle again and not get any other rewards for it. But, like, to have a whole week blocked off and only have this one island, like, I mean, it definitely was clever and fun, but I mean, the people who make Zelda make tons of these puzzles, for their
Mm-hmm.
games. And this is a much simpler type of puzzle. Like, I would feel like you could at least make, I mean, more than one, like maybe not even one a day, maybe just like 3 every other day or something, or one on the first day, one in the middle, and one on the last day, so that you have a few days to do each one. But I don't know. It was really cool, and I really liked it, but I wish there was more, and I'm waiting for seeing what else they're going to do. If they do a lot of those, like if every other week there's like a new event thing that you can do once, that might be enough to keep you coming back at least bi-weekly. But if it's going to be like one puzzle every couple of months, that's not really going to be,
Yeah, that's not sustainable and it's not fun. Dude, to give you an idea, by the way, on the retro game pricing market right now. So Animal Crossing back in November of 2019 was running at 2666, which by the way was kind of high considering over the last several years it had been hovering around 16 bucks. Like I couldn't even get rid of a copy of Animal Crossing to save my life several years ago. Now that game, complete in box with memory card, everything else, is averaging 85.50 because of the combination of quarantine and, well, really, social distancing and lockdowns, and
and
Animal
the
Crossing
new
being
Animal
released.
Crossing being like sold out
Yeah,
everywhere.
exactly. So people were like, I'm turning to eBay to buy this bad boy. $85. Like one just sold yesterday for $120, Black Label with the memory card and stuff. The ones that have sold at like 71 and 70 have all been player's choice copies. This is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, I remember my original Animal Crossing and being super excited for it and then just not really being into it. Like, this is definitely my favorite Animal Crossing, and I've definitely played so much more of it than any other Animal Crossing game, and I've only had 3 of them. Like, this is a landslide. Like, this might just be the only Animal Crossing that I ever need. Like, this may give me my fix. Like, I might not need to do New Horizons 2, but at the rate that they've come out, like, I know there's been a bunch of different Animal Crossings, and I know that I haven't felt the need to even try most of them. So
yeah.
we'll see where it goes
Well,
in the future. I think they'll really support the hell out of this game. The community online is huge. Like, I'm always like looking up people's codes and stuff and seeing all the designs out there. Like, it's such a great uh community, and I get so many cool ideas online.
yeah, it definitely feels like something that I would probably want to jump into at some point, but I think I'll stick with my $85 Animal Crossing and maybe pop it into my Wii console at some point here soon and give it a shot. Dude, I'm just shocked. Like that game collection I recently picked up. Can you imagine if I would have picked it up like, and there was no virus going on, like what the prices would be? There's no way I would have ever recouped my losses
Oh,
on that thing.
whatever.
Well, yeah, I guess. Okay. Let me get into what I'm playing, dude, because I actually progressed a great deal this week in Arctalad 3. I've been
Oh, one
nonstop at
one more
night.
thing before you
Oh,
start. I have not played any
yeah.
more Persona.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you haven't played any more Persona. What happened to Final Fantasy 12? And you gave up on Sekiro last I recall.
Well, I'm saving Final Fantasy 12 for future stuff.
Okay.
We've talked about this. I just don't have
True.
the equipment yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that sounds good. All right. So Arctalad 3. Last I talked about this, we were in a power plant and we were trying to figure out what happens with this chief at a power plant and why people are trying to kill him, right? So I progressed a good deal. I was in Gislam. Now I am in the city of Testa, the academy, which is the baddie in the game, these white coats that are pretty much trying to fix society after the Great Disaster, which you can imagine is exactly what it is, a great disaster that completely destroyed the world of Arctalad 3. And they're trying to find anything they can to remake the world in their image for the most part. So they go to the city of Testa and they steal this water sphere that is basically the life saving force of the entire city for their own purposes. And it's starting to kick in that nostalgia feel. So in the city of Testa, the leader is a guy named Tosh, who happens to also be a character in Arctalad 1 and Arctalad 2. And they have shades of Arctalad 1 and 2 referenced within the actual game. So as you're talking to him, he's like, oh, yeah, there was this time that I went ahead and like went on this recon mission and blew up a train and everything to defeat this empire. I'm like, holy crap. Like it's been like 15 years since I played it, but I remember that. And Tosh was an absolute badass when I played. Like he was one of my top characters next to Elk in Arctalad 2. So I was super stoked to have him there. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, the water sphere's stolen. I'm gonna jump in your party and I'm gonna help you out. So he's kind of like a character you can use. You can't edit him or anything or do anything to his stats or his weaponry, but he is in the game and you're able to play with him. So that's a cool piece. Flash forward back though, so the I had a few different missions I had to complete, and one of the last ones I had to go back to the city of Gislam, and it was a continuation of the power plant. So during the time that like when I got out of Gislam and went to Testa, I was like, okay, what happened to the power plant? Like, am I ever going to get a conclusion to this story? Like, it was actually pretty interesting. And so you end up having to go back to the power plant. And I guess spoilers, if anybody's planning on playing anything that I haven't spoiled already, uh, you pretty much find out that the vice chief has been trying to kill off the chief of the power plant. And he was the one that initially murdered the other chief by doing he basically overrode some data within the power plant that put it to overload or go through a meltdown phase. And the previous chief protected the one that's currently, they're making attempts to assassinate him. And funny enough, the vice chief is using the daughters of the previous chief that was killed. He's trying to basically he tried to manipulate them into killing the other chief, saying, "Oh, he killed your father and everything else. Work for me." When it was like the whole time he was the one that killed him. So it was this crazy like revelation, and I'm just like sitting there like in awe. I'm like, this is actually really cool, like a mini side story to go with this grand scheme of things. It's just a lot of fun. Like I am absolutely loving this game, and I really wish they made them like this still.
It sounds
So
like it's really rewarding to see that through line of all of those games kind of stacked up on top of each other.
oh yeah, 100%, dude. Like Arclad 1 was awesome. Like super short game. So if it's a series you haven't played, number 1 is maybe like 6 or 7 hours. I think 10 at most. And that was a great game. Number 2 is like a 40 or 50-hour game, and then this one I think is like 40 to 60 hours if I'm correct, depending on how fast you obviously go through it. And the progression of these titles, I really wish I would have picked up 3 a long time ago now, because there's a bunch of stuff I'm probably not remembering. Stuff is clicking, but man, is it like a blast to see some of the stuff from like the previous games, different characters coming through. There's a lot of humor in it because it's obviously a 90s JRPG.
See,
Like I just went to, oh, go on.
this sounds a lot like what I hear when I hear people talk about Dragon Quest.
Oh yeah, no, like for sure, dude. Dragon Quest is one of those games. It's I would imagine very similar, just based on obviously the era in which it came out, and a lot of the gameplay mechanics and such, as well as the overall like storyline and how it's composed. It's great quality stuff, dude. I have to tell you this one. I laugh so hard. So I go into a city. I forget the name. I think it was like Para something. I don't remember, but it's next to Testa in this part of the continent I'm in, and you go in and a transvestite comes out of nowhere, or a crossdresser or something comes out of nowhere and like comes up and says, "Hey, let me introduce you to the city." And so you're standing there and they like turn around, they put their arm around you, and you just see like your character like nudges over a little bit, and then the crossdresser nudges over a little bit, and they just keep doing it for a while. And then after he goes like, "All right, well how about I let you be and you can look me up and down and I'll catch you later." And he giggles and runs away. And the main character's like, I he shudders. Like you see the character like move up and down. He's like, "I need to go wash up now." And I was
Yeah,
like, this is so 90s, like
yeah, it
100%.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff in older games that's definitely not like I mean, people were wondering how they were going to handle certain scenes from Final Fantasy VII in the remake. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's supposed to be handled pretty well. Like there's a lot of that kind of 90s stuff that when you look at it now, you can't just kind of help but like shake your head and be like, "Yep, that was the 90s."
Yeah, I laughed so hard. And later on, that same character comes up because you have a mission that you have to complete in that town, and you're trying to basically recruit people to go into the shop. And so you go up to that same individual, and they literally, like it says in there. I took a screenshot and posted on our Facebook and our Instagram and such. And he basically goes, "Sir, ma'am, if you're interested in buying something from the store over there." I'm like, "Huh." That reminds me of GameStop. So I had to totally post it up, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
just really funny. Yeah, it's just really funny to see some of the humor back then. And, it kind of brings you back to a time where like people just weren't really butthurt over everything, I guess. And you could have a good laugh over things like that. Um, and there's just tons of stuff in there that is raunchy and funny and, alcohol references and sex references and everything else you could think of that really made games like this back then. So I'm enjoying it, dude. I'm loving it. Uh, and then the last thing I'm doing right now is I'm playing Neverwinter Night still. We're on chapter 3. We're progressing really well. We just killed a couple captains in the city of Luskan that were trying to basically utilize necromancers to destroy the city and really just kind of take over everything. So that's where we're at right now. We played a little last night, a little dungeon crawling with that, and I think we're officially lost. We gotta probably boot up a game guide here to see where we gotta go next because we're a little confused on what's happening. So,
Big game, easy to get lost.
oh, dude, for sure, man. I don't know how many hours we have in it. I really need to see how long it takes to beat this thing. So, anybody out there, check out howlongtobeat.com. No, it's not a naughty website. It'll at least show you how long to beat certain games. So, all right, dude. Do you want to get into the articles here?
Yeah. So coming up in the news this week, we've got rumor. PS5 PS Store interface allows you to browse and test games instantly. This is by Michael Herodens at psu.com. I think this is a great idea. I mean, I've really seen kind of a resurgence in the demo scene in the last few years. Like, I feel like, I mean, I think they had like a 9-hour demo for Dragon Quest 11 that just came out a little while ago. Um, there was a really long demo that I played some of for Valkyria Chronicles that came out on the Switch.
I think it was
The
4 hours.
the FF7 remake demo was I played that a bunch of times. That was under an hour. I mean, if they can give you like 20 to 40 minutes and just pick a chunk of the game that highlights whatever you feel needs to be highlighted, like you don't even have to like craft something. Like the FF7 remake demo was basically the same, just with some cutscenes taken out. Like there's definitely more in the actual game than what you got in the demo. But I mean, if they're thinking about buying it, you don't even have to cut anything. Like just grab a chunk once you upload it to the store and then let people, play and decide if they want it right then and there. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be better for sales or worse for sales, because some games people are going to try and they're not going to like it, they're not going to want to buy it. I mean, that's kind of what I did with X what is it, Damon Ex Machina. Like, I thought that was going to be a game that I was going to be super into. I mean, it was my whole inspiration for playing Zone of the Enders last year, and it was just kind of a dud for me once I got it in GameFly. So it's like, if I had, and that had a demo, and I liked the demo of that. So, demos can also be misleading. So either way, I think it's going to be better for consumers if that is the case. And I think it would just be really cool in general.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Honestly, I like the idea of doing a demo that's say the first say 2-3 hours of the game's like actual gameplay, like from the start of a game up to 2 to 3 hours in, because as a gamer at that point, okay, I'm really liking this. I'm gonna make a purchase and I'm gonna
Well,
buy the complete thing.
and with
And you
everything that they said about the power of the PS5, and you could do this in the Switch demos, at least for Valkyria Chronicles, and I think for the Dragon Quest, like once you played that point in the demo and you've gotten to the end, it's just like, do you want to buy the rest and keep playing?
Yeah, exactly. Like that right there, I think helps out in, selling to impulse buyers like myself, who may want to pick it up. It also helps just kind of, give a gamer the overall idea like, do I really like this game? And if I've taken 2 hours of my time, maybe three, and I've truly enjoyed the game, and now I'm like, well, what happens next? Like, if you end it on a key point that it's like, well, whoa, what's going on now? Like, why did it just stop? Well, now you got to go out and buy that game. So I really do think this is a great opportunity for them to, not only enhance sales, but from a user perspective, it helps us not buy crap games. Like, can you imagine if they had a 2 or 3 hour demo for Anthem?
John,
Like, huh?
I think that they're trying to steal our bit. This is the
You know what?
inflation deflation challenge. That's what they're talking
It
about.
is. Oh, Sony. I'm so disappointed.
We didn't come
So
up with the
disappointed.
idea of demos, but we definitely came up with the idea of, playing it for a little bit and deciding if it's worth the price or not.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to have to issue a cease and desist to Sony, unfortunately.
You know what, for the people, we'll let them have this because it's a good idea.
It is a good idea, so we'll let them have this one. But dude, yeah, I really do like this idea. We do it all the time on a week to week basis. Few, 30 minutes to an hour playing a game, and we can really determine at that point. Like I said, or like you said, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Do I want to continue taking the time to play this game? And you can make an informed decision in that type of time frame. That's why, you know, when we do this, we actually can put in a valued opinion, because if you can play a game for 30 minutes to an hour and make a $60 decision on a brand new title, you can play a game for 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, and say, yeah, is this worth the money that it's going for right now or not? So I think that's just kind of, Sony really just kind of enhanced our inflation deflation challenge to show that we really do know what we're doing here. So, dude, speaking of cease and desist, and legal issues, Sony, I don't know if you know this, but Sony identified the Last of Us 2 leaker. So, if unless you've been living under a rock, uh, Last of Us 2, every single cutscene in the game was released online and spoiled for everyone. Like, it's crazy, and I'm pissed off about it. In fact, I've been on a few forums where people just troll and they'll literally put a piece of like key information in the game, like, oh, so and so's dead in the game. Like, what? Like, I don't even know who that character is, but now I know they're dead. So when I'm playing, it's gonna suck.
Well, in Dalton Cooper's article at Game Rant, he talks about the recent Assassin's Creed Valhalla release trailer. Like when that happened, people were dumping all kinds of spoiler stuff in that as well.
Oh
So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So
lots of people were probably impacted by this a lot. I mean, we were talking about spoilers just at the top of this episode. And, I really, spoilers are not a big deal for me for the most part, especially in like interactive media, like a video game. Like, a video game has to stand up on its own, kind of in spite of its story. Like you can still have like a good game with a mess story, even if that story has good twists and turns. Like that only adds to it, but it has to be fun as a game. So game spoilers are not super big for me. I mean, even like movie spoilers, like I tend to try to avoid those more, but that's because it relies so much on what you know going into it. Like, those movies that show all the good parts in the trailers and then the rest of the movie just isn't very good. Like that happens a lot more with like those type of passive media, but this is a game that kind of blurs the line, like the cinematic nature and like the fact that everybody loved the story. Like I don't know that anybody really ever acclaimed The Last of Us to be like the best third person shooter of all time. Like I know it's got pretty good stealth systems in it and you have to play like to survive. Like you can't be this super aggressive just kill everything like in other games. So it's a lot. It's a lot for a game like this to have this done to it. Like other games would have really, you could have let out the spoilers for Final Fantasy 7 and people would be like, "What?" But everyone would still play it.
well, yeah, and I mean, Final Fantasy VII though has been there for years now. I'm sure there are things in a game that are a little
Do you not know the
more
spoilers for Final Fantasy 7 Remake?
No, and I don't care to know at this point, just because I know there's added content that wasn't in the original series. Now, the general gist of things, so spoiler if you don't know this, but if Eris dying, for example, like that's a key piece of information in the game that has been around for decades. I mean, we're talking literally like 20 plus years that this
I
game
mean,
has.
it's Luke, I am your father by this point.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's not too big a deal for something like that. Now, Last of Us 2 is a game that I've been hyped for since it ended, like the first one. I have been wanting a Last of Us 2 for years. And so, of course, it comes out, and like some people are just upset, like, oh, well, the story's not cool and everything. Like, it's just not a good story. Like, Naughty Dog destroyed everything. They're making it a political agenda, like all these other things that, people are complaining about. It's like, well, okay, you're not going to like the game, big whoop. Don't ruin it for those of us that want to play it. So like spoilers really do piss me off at times, especially something like this. Like this is a huge game that really does rely on the hype, the cinematic aspects of it, and the storyline. Because of how everything ended on the first game. So yeah, man, it really sucks for something like this to have been spoiled. The last thing I want is like, an Uncharted 5 to be announced and that gets spoiled too. Like that would just suck.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
we'll see what kind of hammer Sony can bring down on these guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think
They
they
did
will.
say
And
that it was nobody from Sony or Naughty Dog. It was an outside source that did it. So
yeah,
that's good
exactly.
news. I mean, they talk about how it's tough to keep big secrets, and you compartmentalize, and you only have like people on a need to know basis to try to avoid this type of thing happening. And I mean, the last major leak that I remember was like all of the stuff from Smash Bros. The last Smash Bros. Like that had leaks out ahead of time, and like we were like, how's this going to affect moving forward? How they protect their IP and stuff from that happening. And unfortunately, there's just people out there that can and will do this.
Well, and some of those leaks sometimes can be internal, right? So Smash, for example, if you're leaking, say K Rule being in it, right? At that point in time, well, you might leak that yourself so that way it can get some hype going on and everything of talking about Smash. This is just an external source being
Yeah.
like, well, something pissed me off, so I'm going to go ahead and release every single bit of it. So yeah, I hope they definitely drop the hammer on whoever the hell the leaker was, because that's a lot of potential revenue loss. So they can probably go ahead and like tie in, anticipated sales based on pre-orders and cancellations, and determine based off that from a revenue standpoint. But yeah, so this game actually was indefinitely held for the longest time here. Well, not longest time, but about a month. And Sony just came out and said we're releasing it June 19th. So I think some of that's more reactionary to try and save some sales that they may have missed out on if they would have held off.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah, speaking of
we're gonna tie
leaks,
this in real quick.
yeah,
I hope that they don't talk about this when they talk about this next thing, because man, I've seen so many times where like you hold a press conference, and I'm not sure that this is going to be like a full press conference, but we'll see what it's going to be. PS5 to reveal event date just got leaked as Sony prepares to take on Xbox. This is by Matt Evans at T3.com, and we got a date.
June 9th.
Yeah, so they're
So
gonna
or no,
finally
no,
reveal
June 4th. I'm sorry, June 4th
June
is the
4th.
date.
June 19th was The Last of Us. That's what I'm saying. It's like, don't show any Last of Us stuff 2 weeks before it comes out at this. Make it all PS5, please.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, that's been released. There's nothing super big on that. Now I do want to say I think it was our T3 article here that we had. I ended up clicking another thing at the end of the article. It said best PS5 games, every confirmed and rumored. So you haven't seen this one, dude, but I just want to go through a quick list of some of the really cool ones coming out. So you've got Gothic, which is an action RPG that's supposed to be remade pretty soon. You've got a really cool game called Outriders. It's got a trailer out. The Harry Potter RPG is expected to come out on the PS5, and I'll just go through a couple others here. Silent Hill 5 and Silent Hills is another option. Metal Gear Solid 6, talking about that potentially coming out. Ratchet and Clank, potentially seeing a new installment to that franchise. And then, of course, Horizon Zero Dawn, number 2, is expected to make an appearance on the PS6 or PS5. Sorry, way ahead of myself on PS6. But the one thing that does interest me the most, by the way, dude, is the idea of a Lord of the Rings Gollum game coming out on PS5.
Oh, yeah. I
I think,
remember hearing about that a while ago.
yeah, like I saw that. I'm like super stoked just for that alone, man. Like that looks sick. Just the images and the thought process of Gollum like being the main key focal point of an upcoming game. So yeah, there's a lot of cool titles that they're rumoring and things that have already been confirmed for the PS5. So I'm going to link this one as well. It actually is on our Twitter. I went ahead and threw that up a little bit ago. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm just excited to finally see what it all looks like laid bare, and they're not hiding anything else from us anymore. I mean, we'll definitely start to see more game stuff. I mean, they talk at the end of the article a little bit, Godfall was one of the ones you didn't mention, and that game
Yeah,
looks
that's actually on
super
the
cool.
list. Yeah, that one's on the list too. There's a ton on here, man. There really is. like a new Batman game, Gran Turismo's on here, GTA 6.
So we'll
Uh,
see. We'll see if they're
yeah,
going to
there's a
talk
lot.
about games or just the system itself. I mean, at this point, since they've already talked about the specs, I mean, unless they want to make another super boring presentation, that's the biggest problem. Is all their presentations so far have been super lame, and we haven't gotten that sweet reveal moment. Like it's kind of been this little bit, and I'm tired of that. I can't wait to see it
Yeah,
all, and hopefully we don't have like I just don't want to talk about it anymore. If we can avoid talking about it until it actually comes out, that'd be great.
we're not going to. Next week, another PS5 article
Oh my
coming to you
gosh, every week.
every week. All
No
right.
information.
No information, but I can tell you what we do have: an inflation deflation challenge. So this week, Super Mario Bros. 2, developed by Nintendo EAD. I didn't know that was a developer for Nintendo. Published by Nintendo. Ryan, who's a designer because I can't pronounce it.
Kensuke Tanabe.
Thank you. Released in October of 1988. So for all of you folks out there, this game's older than me. And it is a platformer, of course. And reception, I'm shocked, but somebody had to get paid, I guess. 8 to 8.5 is the out of 10 score review that we have here. So Ryan, take it away on our first bit here on the inflation deflation.
So everybody knows that this is formerly known as Doki Doki Panic, released in Japan, and it wasn't here. They skipped over Japan's Super Mario 2, which we later got as the Lost Levels because they thought it was too hard for us Americans to play. So we got this instead. It's a totally weird, not the same as the other Mario games. You get to pick from Luigi, Mario, Toad, and Peach. They all play a little bit differently. They all have a little bit different jumps and stuff like that. It's much more vertical than the previous Mario titles. And I mean, at least for me, I've definitely played this a bunch of times growing up. Like anytime I was at somebody's house that had like the All Stars, and we would go through those and we would play this. I've never beaten this game because I've never beaten most games. It took me a while to kind of get used to the controls. I was playing it on the Switch because as part of Switch Online, you get access to this through their NES game selection, which I think is a pretty good way to play. I mean, I kind of wish that I had a D-pad like on a Switch Lite. I'm hoping that, maybe they come out with some Joy-Cons that have a D-pad on them or something. And my right Joy-Con is suffering from crazy problems right now. So I'm going to have to send that in, maybe get a Pro controller or something. But it took me a while to get used to the controls. It's weird because you can use 3 buttons even though it's a 2-button game. Like I kind of wish that I had played this on my Game Boy Micro instead. But I do like that I was able to cheat super hard because you have a rewind function that you can use on the Switch to just make sure you never really get hurt and you never really die and you just keep playing. So that's what I did. And I
Uh,
think that it's a fun game. It's not a bad game. It's definitely not the best Mario game.
Well, unlike Ryan, I played via emulator because I was just way too lazy to hook up my Nintendo and get it all booted up on there. So, yeah, I didn't use any save states, so I will mention that. And I agree with you, man. I was playing on a Super Nintendo controller, so it was a little more odd for me, to be honest, which kind of gave me flashbacks to playing it on All Stars years ago. But yeah, I agree with you, man. That jump button on the controller that I was playing was just odd. Like I died several times because I hit the wrong button to jump. And actually, all 4 of my buttons acted as a jump button, which was funny enough.
Yeah, once
So,
I got used to the controls, like I was having like a fine enough time getting through it, but I do wish that I had played it on a more limited control. Like I don't like having extra buttons that don't do anything, and I also don't like using the joystick to move around, and it just feels more natural to use the joystick than the buttons on the left Joy-Con.
yeah, I definitely could not play this game for a joystick. I would prefer to use a
Dude, I
D-pad
was
on it.
slipping
So,
off of every ladder.
oh yeah, no, it wouldn't surprise me. Like I was slipping off ladders on a D-pad. So, yeah, dude, this game I played years ago when I was a kid, and I've played it on and off ever since then. It's not a game that I've actually ever beat. only because I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's just really kind of where I stand with it. It's not my favorite Mario. It's definitely got some interesting elements, but it's just not that great. And so I would never rate it above a 6 for sure, despite how many people are gonna yell at me for that one. So overall though, the colors in this game are great. The gameplay is not bad at all, in terms of being able to jump to different enemies and pick things up, and like it's got its own flair, right? I would almost say that I would rather have seen Doki Doki Panic come here as an import and just see Lost Levels as Mario 2. Like, I think Doki Doki Panic could have just held on its own out here and not had any issues. But when you tie in Mario, it's just weird, man. It's just not it's not as fun. It doesn't have that same feel to it. So for that reason alone, that would probably be one of the biggest issues for me. But yeah, dude. So the emulator component of it was pretty fluid for me. I didn't have any major issues. So kudos to whoever uploaded that bad boy years ago. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun. It was fun, basically being able to play it with you is really what it came down to. Like having
Through
the
safe
chance to, like,
social distancing.
safe social distancing, yes, and just being able to just kind of commentate with each other, like, oh, I'm on such and such, oh yeah, hey, if you throw this bomb here, this is what it does. So that was pretty cool. I think this is the second game that we've done like this, and I've enjoyed doing that. It's been a lot of fun. So I guess what do you like to say, brass tacks on this?
The brass tacks. So
The brass
complete in
tacks.
box, we've got $46.99. That's down from its peak of $54.30 back in May of 2019, but it's climbing fast. Like, it looks like it's going pretty well up. Similar on the other side, we've got the loose price, $18.50. That peaked back at $20.91 back in December 2014. It's shooting up right now too. So, it could be this everybody's staying inside playing games. You were talking earlier about how it seems like retro prices are climbing, and this is reflecting that accurately. Now, the most expensive version is the NES Complete in Box, and the cheapest version, I would say, is the PAL NES Super Mario All-Stars pack at $14.75. That's loose. But I did just look up the original Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic for Famicom, loose $9.99, complete in box $72.99. So that actually tips the scale at either end. But with so many ways to play this game, it's kind of all over the place. You can kind of pay around whatever price point you want for whatever different version of this you might like. So there's lots of options out there. And I'd say that they all kind of have their own place. Like, if you've got to have it complete in box for NES, I mean, $50 is a lot, but it is a Mario game. It's not necessarily to have complete in box. A lot of people don't have NES complete in box, so $18.50, that seems pretty fair, considering like the other ways to play would be a $20 year subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, or a little bit cheaper if you want to get an import version of either the PAL or the Famicom.
So for you, man, 1850. What are you thinking in terms of overall thoughts? Inflated, deflated, just right?
It's been higher in the past, and it's climbing right now. So I'd say that $18.50 is a fair price, especially if you're going to see that rise.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is probably inflated a bit. I wouldn't pay more than $15 for a copy of Mario 2. It's a mass-produced game. It's not a very good game on top of that, and you can play it in multiple ways. You can play it, via emulator if you wanted to. Not saying that's the way to go, but the All Stars pack.
Well, we're talking, we're talking for
World.
a collector.
Yeah,
Is it
for exactly? It's not. I mean, look, you got Super Mario All Stars, Super Mario All Stars World, and then you have Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. That's three options right there within the same like 10-year span of gameplay that you can buy this thing. You know, and
Mhm.
yeah, the retro prices are climbing right now, but it begs the question of everybody's spending a ton of money right now on these retro games. What are they gonna like? It's
I
not
mean,
gonna stay like this.
it's been at
1 week since
and
you looked at me.
just under $20 for the last 5 years.
I still think it's inflated, dude.
Okay.
I don't think that that is a good price point for this game given how many were out there. And I'll stand by that point. It's just not that great of a game. There's ways to get this cheaper. I just sold last year copies of Super Mario All Stars for like less than $20.
Mhm.
Like just last year, that was the going rate for a lot of these games. So I think right now a lot of his pricing is hyped up. I think these prices are going to drop drastically as soon as this whole, you know, all these quarantine things and this retro craze goes away. People are locked up wanting to play games. They're paying absurd prices. I think Mario 2 is starting to see a bit of that. This thing's going to drop to like, I hope, $15 here in the next, several months.
Mhm.
We'll see. But yeah, so you're saying it is a good price point. You're saying deflated, right?
I'm going to say
I'm gonna
just right. I think
just
it's right
right.
where it needs to be right now, just under $20.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and say it's inflated, dude. Just
All
a
right.
little too much.
Well, we've got a
But
disagreement this week.
a disagreement. So dude, I was while you were chatting about prices here, I was looking up our next game for next week.
What
I
you
am
got?
thinking Super R-Type.
Super R-Type?
Yeah, it's a side-scrolling shooter on the
Okay.
Super
Yeah.
Nintendo.
I'd try that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think we'll both enjoy that one a lot. And then, of course, we could see what our high scores are afterwards and compare.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So that'd be a pretty good entry into an episode. All right, man. Any final thoughts here other than telling people to catch us on Podcast Addict, Spotify, uh, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and every other place that you can find Game Deflators?
Yeah, leave us comments, leave us a review if you really want to. We know that most people don't, but you'd be like a super awesome person if you did.
You really would be an awesome person. And 6-star reviews would be the best, but
We'll
understandably,
settle
if your
for
computer
5.
is not, yeah, if your computer can't handle the extra star on there, like we understand bandwidth issues right now on the internet, 5 is fine, totally understandable. So, all right, well, this has been episode 78 of the Game Deflators podcast. My name's John,
I'm Ryan.
and thanks for listening.